I normally don't respond to comments like this, but it's just when they keep going. Catholicism is Christianity. It's actually the original form of Christianity. I don't know why people refuse to acknowledge history. It's weird.
You'll quite often hear Catholics say that they are the original church. There's a lot of problems with that statement. So first off, the Catholic Church is formally known as the Roman Catholic Church, which means it's based out of Rome. That was not the first church. The church in Jerusalem was the first church. So if anything, we should say that the Messianic Jews are actually the original Christian church. But aside from that, they'll also bring up old documents where early church fathers, as they're called, mention the word Catholic. But what they don't tell you is that C is a lowercase c. It was meant as a descriptive word, not a title. Catholic meant universal, overall, the whole of the church. It didn't mean Catholic as we used it until much, much later in history.
They would know that the first Christians were at Antioch. And when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church, and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. Most Bible scholars would agree that this was written around 60 AD. Once again, the term Catholic Church wasn't used until 107 AD, so they couldn't have been the first Christians. The first Christians were Christians, not Catholics.
It was not known as the Catholic Church back then. That's a good point. But that's because it was just known as Christianity because it didn't have any other denomination. And so, it was simply Christianity until all...
The first century, we start in the first century AD, right after Jesus. This is the weirdest and earliest stretch of Christian history because technically Christianity wasn't really a word yet. Followers of Jesus called themselves the Way, and they were a tiny group, maybe a few thousand people spread across the Roman Empire. Most of them were Jewish. A lot of them still went to the synagogue and considered themselves Jews who happened to believe the Messiah had already shown up. There were no church buildings, none. If you were a Christian in this era, you'd meet in somebody's house, probably a wealthier member who had a big enough room. You'd share a meal together, break bread, pray, maybe read from a letter that an apostle like Paul had sent to your city. If you got caught doing this, depending on where you lived, you could be in serious trouble. Being Christian in this era also meant being pretty broke a lot of the time. The early church shared everything. If someone was starving, everyone chipped in. It was closer to a commune than what we think of as a church today. You probably also had weird nicknames for each other like brother or sister or saint. The Romans thought you were part of a suspicious cult because you talked about eating the body and drinking the blood of your leader, which to be fair sounds pretty cultish without context, and you had to be ready for anything. The apostles themselves were getting killed off one by one. Stephen got stoned to death. James got beheaded. Peter, tradition says, was crucified upside down in Rome. Paul got his head chopped off. If the guys at the top were dying for this, as a regular believer, you knew you were on the menu too.